All right, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about two things. We're talking about two shows where if you were, I guess, like sitting around for 2 weeks, from like the week after Thanksgiving, but also the week of Thanksgiving, and you just sit around and you think, so should I watch the show about the monster that's attacking children, or do I watch the other show about the monster that's attacking children? And then you decide to go with whichever show that involves a monster attacking children. None of that's my joke. Somebody made that joke. I forgot his name. I never saved the post that I saw. So by any chance, if you're listening to this, just tell me your name. Just reach it out at Tough Love Pictures. But we're going to talk about two shows today, kind of very similar, but not entirely. So I'm going to talk about, and I swore I wasn't going to talk about this at all, but the fact that I need content and the fact that I actually enjoyed the show a lot more than the other show says a lot. So what I'm talking about first is the first season of Welcome to Derry. And then eventually I'm going to talk about the final season of Stranger Things. So again, hence, either show about a monster that's attacking children. But yeah, if I can recollect my thoughts, because I have not caught up with Welcome to Derry, but I haven't rewatched the entire first season because I rarely do this, or I hardly ever do this really. Sometimes when I watch a show, especially like from the streaming platform, I don't rewatch it. Mostly because I guess because I liked it the first time around, I feel like I would be turned off if I watch it again. Or, I'm waiting for all the seasons to come out, that way I can actually binge watch it from start to finish. Because I feel like if I did it with Welcome to Derry, it would, whenever it ends, I think it ends at 2028, or 29. It just depends on how HBO Max is gonna continue with the show. But it would be easier with Welcome to Derry, given that the episodes are way less than an hour, like between 40 minutes to an hour, 45 the most. But with Stranger Things, I don't remember too much about the first season. Maybe the first two seasons, the episodes are like an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour. Again, I have to 100% catch up with it, or not catch up with it, but rewatch it now that I actually have a chance. The thing is that rewatching Stranger Things is going to become a chore, because eventually, especially the fourth and the fifth season, every episode comes to almost a 90-minute movie. Especially the final episodes, which become 2-hour movies itself. Hell, the final ever episode of Stranger Things came out in theaters on, what was it, New Year's Eve. So yeah, let's first talk about Welcome to Derry, because I think I'm gonna enjoy talking about this a lot more. And then I say that, and then I look at the time, and it says I've only recorded for 12 minutes, but I'll see how much I can talk, as well as extend the time and continue to talk, or at least have y'all engaged, because I am going to talk about the two shows. I'm also going to talk about something else after I talk about Stranger Things, and it's something that's very important to me, but maybe I don't have to talk too much, but let's see. So Welcome to Derry, I've already talked about it. I did our Halloween episode was about it. I've mentioned Tim Curry multiple times on this podcast already. So as I said before, first time I ever heard of seeing it, the original 1990, I was scared out of my mind. It still frightens me, but not too much. When I see it on the filmmaking aspect of it, especially as I mentioned before, how Tim Curry's Pennywise, he looks directly at you and he says, "I'll kill you all." Not at you, but at the camera, but it makes it feel like he's looking at you. Or especially when he's capturing Audra with the dead lights, and he's just staring at you with those shiny lights. All of that, that was creepy. And I mean, the poster creeped me out too. I mean, with that smile when he's looking at the camera and his hands are just so misshapen. But the thing that I never knew about, because I never read the book at that time, I didn't even know it was a book, or that Stephen King wrote the book, was that the clown, Pennywise the clown, is not what it is, which is what Welcome to Derry goes back to. It is a cosmic entity that's been around before time, and eventually when it came to Earth, it would take the form of things that people feared, and eventually it would take the form of the clown, because there was a time when kids were actually afraid of clowns. And like I said, I'm not really afraid of clowns. I'm afraid of scary ass clowns. You get what I mean? Clowns that don't look normal. No, I'm not dealing with that. But the thing though is that the show, the original 1990 miniseries, went too in depth, or they mainly stuck with the clown or the spider. Majority, yeah, it was the clown, but in the book, the clown isn't as prominent as people think. And then when you go to the Andy Muschietti movies, which is share the same universe as Welcome to Derry, yeah, clown's still a lot more prominent there. I mean, it does show you that like what this thing is takes fear, or it takes the form of fear, but it goes a lot more into it in Welcome to Derry, where we don't see Pennywise until I think like the 5th episode of the show, because I think there's like 8 of them, I think somewhere around there. And to me, Welcome to Derry makes up for how I guess I wouldn't say bad, like how they treated Pennywise, like the character, as well as the the IP, how they treated that in the second film, which is not favorable amongst people. They redeemed it with Welcome to Derry, because remember, Welcome to Derry more focuses on what it is, or like the certain chapters of the book It. So this one focused a lot more on the black spot murder, but goes way deep into it. Now, if you've never seen the show, I'm already giving out some spoilers, but if you've also never read the book or seen the show, here's some spoilers if you want to know. But in the book, I mean, there's segments where it talks about how all the events that happened in Derry, and one of them being the black spot murder, which is supposed to be a spot for black airmen, as well as black citizens of Derry. And then it was destroyed by a hate crime of white nationalists. And just saying white nationalists makes me sound like a woke person. I'm definitely not, but that was what the book says. And Dick Halloran from The Shining, because remember, supposedly all the stories of Stephen King, especially the dramatic ones like Shawshank, The Green Mile, Stand By Me, they all share the same universe. And Dick Halloran, as we know, was the cook who also has psychic abilities in The Shining. And when he knew about the fire that was happening, he used his shine to help save a lot of the folks that were in that fire. And then he eventually does save Mike Hanlon's dad. And that's pretty much how it was. It was literally like, I think, a page or two of that story. But they extended it a lot more, adding more depths and layers to Dick Halloran, the character. And I know there was like a long time ago, there used to be talks of a Dick Halloran show or a Dick Halloran movie. After seeing Chris Chalk's performance and just seeing how, people really, really loved the character in that show, I think it's time to actually go back to that drawing board and give us more. I mean, because you rarely saw Dick Halloran in The Shining, the Stanley Kubrick one. I haven't seen the other Shining, the miniseries that Stephen King was heavily involved with, because he didn't really like the Stanley Kubrick adaptation. And obviously, Dick Halloran and Dr. Sleep was just reduced to an illusion, or an entity that's now with Danny, or a memory with Danny, because given Dr. Sleep takes place after the events of The Shining. For the record, I think Dr. Sleep actually might be my favorite Stephen King adaptation, but I don't know, we'll see. It was either that or The Green Mile, but so was that the Halloran performance by Chris Chalk was so great. And then there are these kids now. Like I said, when I talked about it, I mean, when I recorded the episode about it, so I could get ready for my Halloween episode, the first episode of Welcome to Derry came out, and we're like, okay, so we got these new set of losers clubs, and half the set died in the first episode. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Because Andrew Muschietti is going back to the drawing board of remembering that it it's not Pennywise is not it, well, vice versa. It is an entity that is not human, and people can only associate it with the face of Pennywise, whether it's Tim Curry's or Bill Skarsgård. And Bill Skarsgård, I feel like he makes Pennywise a lot more menacing here than he did in, I think, just the second film. The first film, he was very menacing, but the second film, bro, I don't know, like, given the fact that it's a different medium, but you're given more chances to play the character, dude, he actually did it really well. I mean, if we would separate it, like the Pennywise of the movie specifically, even though they're both played by Bill Skarsgård, but how he is in the movie is in third place. How Tim Curry performed the character in the miniseries series is in second place, but how Bill Skarsgård comes back to it and re-portrays Pennywise, but in this show, that beats the cake. I mean, I'll always stand with Tim Curry's Pennywise, but this new set of I guess you can't really say Losers Club because it's not Losers Club, even though like we eventually found out the Marge character would eventually become like the mother of Richie Tozier. And that final episode, because I used to be kind of a Derry in the beginning, but then when the final episode show where Pennywise reveals that she is the mother of Richie Tozier, I'm just thinking like, wait, how does he know that? And then eventually you realize that this is a being, a cosmic being, celestial being probably. Think about beings like angels, even God himself, in different mythologies as well. Time is irrelevant and they live outside of time. So it's like it's weird to say, it's like he lives both in past and present, like omnipresence almost. So like he knows like, oh, I'm gonna eventually die in about, almost 60 years. And yeah, so I think what the purpose of the show is basically, again, making up for how people felt about the second movie. Because remember, in the second movie, the only way to stop Pennywise, and I didn't write the rules, guys, and the only way to stop Pennywise was to bully him to pretty much nothing and then grab his heart and just squish it. I am going to talk about something like that similar when I go to Stranger Things, and I think you guys know what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, but the performances of the characters are so great in the shows, especially I'm trying to remember her name right now, not the actress, but not just the actress, but the character. So I'm going to check out the character list, which while I'm looking, when y'all saw the show, did the theme song get to your head? Because the theme song got in my head. All right. So obviously, yeah, we got Marge as a character, Dick Halloran, Will Hanlon, and let's see. So obviously the other Hanlons, Charlotte and Leroy. We eventually see like how, and it's weird. The only thing that ever threw me off about that is that like, given how come the adults like Leroy or even Marge, not mention this to their kids. Well, I mean, yes, eventually like when it controls the town, and when it gets older, and when kids get older, they tend to forget the stuff. But it only worse if they leave the town of Derry, because if they leave Derry, they forget what has happened. Well, I mean, with Will, it's different, because if you know the story with the Muschietti adaptation, Will and maybe Ronnie, we don't know for sure if Ronnie does become the mother of Mike Hanlon, or maybe we'll find somebody else. But what we do know is Will does die. It's been established in the first movie that Will dies. Now, I do know something. Will Hanlon in the book does die, but he dies when Mike is a lot older. And they talk about how they shared a similar encounter with it when it took the form of a giant bird. That's something I remember reading in the book. So who else is in there? Okay, Lily, the girl who played Lily. First of all, props to her, because the way like she portrays having to play, what is it, like an 11, 12-year-old girl that's super, not psychotic, like she's been through hell is what I meant to say. Even before the events of Pennywise, she's been through hell, because it had been implied that her dad was working at a pickle factory. And then if you hated pickles, guys, I think you're going to hate the pickles even more. I love pickles, by the way. But, my kid, not my real kid, but she can't stand pickles. And I'll talk about that a lot more when I get to my Stranger Things episode. But yeah, like with her dad, what was it, getting chopped up into bits and then his body stuffed in pickle jars? Dude, that's just like, they don't show that, but they kind of show that. But just her mentioning it, just like, oh gosh, that's a terrible way to die. And then Richie, I loved Richie, man. It's maybe because he was Cuban. I'm not Cuban. I'm Mexican, but dude, that character, like, I love drums. I play drums. He played drums. When he died, I was like, God damn it. I'm sorry. When he died, I was like, darn it, man. Are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna kill this kid off that people really love? And then it's funny when like his spirit went to go help the kids retrap Pennywise. Then he just flicks Pennywise off. It's funny. Which also gets me to something else. I mean, one of the big criticisms I have about the show, and it's kind of the same thing with when I get to Stranger Things, but it's the military like story behind it. It never made sense, and it sucks because you get two great all-time actors, both playing military leaders, both like would be ashamed or would put shame on the uniform they put on, because my dad was a big military guy, and if he saw people that would act like this, he'd probably be like, you put shame on our country if you're wearing that uniform and doing things for evil. But to my point, these two characters that were played by two great acting icons, one from Welcome to Derry and the other from Stranger Things, was James Remar, I think that's how you say his name. First of all, I met James Remar. He is such a nice guy, like such a great guy. And this was before I even started binge watching Dexter, because I knew James Remar from The Warriors. As I think a lot of people do. And if you never knew, James Remar got his start from a movie called The Warriors, which is a movie I think I want to tackle one of these days. But it's a really great movie. It's one of those like low budget films back in the 70s that it takes place all in one night. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you because I think it's a really great film y'all should check out. But that's how I remember James, is from Warriors. I also met was it Michael Beck, and who played Swan the leader, and I forgot, let me look it up, because I think it was Michael Beck, James Remar, and who was the girl? Hold on. Yeah, Mercy, Deborah Van Walkenburg from the Warriors, who played Mercy. I met those guys, again, really, really great folks, really, really cool and awesome folks. But of all the cast of the Warriors, James Remar seems to be the one that, what's the word? He's been a lot more. I mean, was Dexter, Black Lightning that came out not too long ago. Welcome to Derry. He also came out in Gotham, which is an autograph I have for him. Now I kind of wish it was Ajax from The Warriors. And then obviously this show, but he's done a lot. He's done a lot of movies and television. He's the most I think he's like the only cast member that we know really loves acting, because everybody else is either retired or they just don't do a lot of big projects. But to my point, James Remar, I didn't really like his character much in this movie because it never made sense. The military wants to capture it. At first, it's believed they want to capture it to win the Cold War. And I thought that was just lazy writing, as Deadpool would say. Now that's just lazy writing. But then it's revealed he wants to restore order to the world using it as a way of using, or not really using it, but fear itself. That's pretty much what I would say. Fear itself, to put people back in its place, given like what happened through the times of the Korean War, or all the civil rights stuff that's happening, all the racial stuff, all the political stuff that was happening, and violence happens during most of that, and you want to bring fear so that people won't even they won't act like violent and stuff like that. It's kind of weird to say, but then obviously that plan didn't work. He gets killed by it because he encountered it when he was young, and when he tried to release it, it smelled the fear from the character, and he's like, I never forget a smell. And yeah, I mean, sometimes this episode pisses you off. I mean, these episodes kind of piss you off when it comes to the Black Spot murder, and I feel like that was the purpose of it. And I feel like next season, when it gets to the what is it? Man, I'm trying to think. There's the Bradley gang. I think the next season we know is gonna get to the Bradley gang. We already got a little bit of snippets from the first season when it came to the Kirsch character. Which, by the way, she is 67, and God dang, that woman good for 67. All right, I'm gonna be out and proud about saying that. Okay, I'm not hiding that part, but still, and some people are gonna be like thrown off about the stories about it. And it's like, oh, this is woke and stuff like that. Well, it takes place, back in those times. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be some of that stuff, but it's not like if I did movies that take place around slavery time or civil rights time and stuff like that. It's not for it to be woke. It's just like that's just what happened in history. I will say though that not every white person not every white person was evil or racist, but I mean, you could say pretty much about any, what's the word? Not oppressive time. I wouldn't say too oppressive, but in an oppressive era, you can say bad about any people. You get what I mean? And people will still call it woke. But to my point, I really did enjoy Welcome to Derry. I can't wait for season 2, what they're going to do with that. I think Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti, his sister, really redeemed themselves after, how things went down for the second film. So if I was to rank these, counting the 1990 version, I think it would be It Chapter 2, It Chapter 1, Welcome to Derry Season 1, and then It 1990. I always have a spot for that one, the 1990 version. But yeah, we're going to take a break right now, and then we'll eventually talk about the Stranger Things final season. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. So now we're going to talk about the other show about the monster that was attacking children and the final episode of Stranger Things. So, first of all, I have a very complex feeling about this season. Going back to the whole, military thing. It's the same thing as they've tried to do with all the past seasons where they want to capture beings from the upside down and then use it to go against the war on Russia, because this is during the era of the Cold War. And which I've already mentioned kind of in Stranger Things. I mean, not Stranger Things, Welcome to Derry. And yeah, I just have very complicated feelings about this one. And then using the Linda Hamilton, Sarah freaking Connor. Okay, I almost said the full F word, but oh my gosh. What did they do? Like, Stranger Things is known for, at least with the last 3 seasons, of getting like very great actors and put them on the show, but that's just for like, they call it stunt casting, where like they just have famous actors on their show just to have them there. They kind of did that with Robert Englund, but with this one, there's a lot more to it. There was a lot more to why they casted Robert Englund specifically, because Vecna was a representation of Freddy Krueger, and that's why they casted him. Linda Hamilton's just there because at least with James Remar, he still has that like Remar-esque, characteristic. With Linda Hamilton, I'm like, really? Like, you're not doing it? Like, this is all you're using for her? And of course, there's always that thing of like, what happens to the military after the final episode? You get what I mean? So that's my biggest problem. I mean, cause like I wasn't super excited for the final season, to be honest with you guys. I wasn't, because my issue when it comes to television, I don't watch a lot of television, guys. And the issue being is that when a show ends, it ends bad. All right. The only show I know that actually has that do have better endings are like Breaking Bad. In my personal opinion, Mayans MC does have a really good ending. I think it was better than the Sons of Anarchy ending, and I love Sons of Anarchy. What else? Friends had a pretty good ending, until Joey messed it up. And then The Office. Even though I've never seen the ending, but I heard The Office ending is actually really great and it does service to the show. Avatar's and Welcome to Korra, both shows ended on a better note, with more questions answered than more questions being added on. But obviously there are shows that are like, what, like people will say Dexter. I didn't like the Dexter ending, and apparently they messed it up a lot more with Dexter New Blood. And then Game of Thrones was a very famous one. I've never seen Game of Thrones. I might eventually, because I do stuff like this, but I hope to God The Boys has a really great ending, a really solid ending. But yeah, The Sopranos ending, it's a mixed bag for a lot of folks. But my point being, like, the final seasons of a show never really delivers, and when they deliver, it's like, okay, like, that is that it? You get what I mean? Like, you want to be satisfied, because there's like Duffer Brothers, you can just tell they just had no plan. Okay, now keep in mind, there's a lot of stuff happening when they were making the show. So here's what I mean. The biggest problem with Stranger Things was always that the kids, they get older and older every year. Now, yes, kids grow up, but the thing is that like seasons 1 and 2, they came out a year apart from each other, so that's fine. I don't know. I don't remember why they decided to wait way over a year for Stranger Things season 3 to come out after season 2. But I'm a little bit more forgiving for that. And then the other reasons, and you really just can't blame them for it either, is because season 4 got halted because of the pandemic, and then season 5 got halted because of the strikes. I mean, the strikes wasn't really like the big deal, but it was one of the reasons. The other reason is just the Duffer Brothers was just taking way too much time to finish the thing. And the strikes were a part of it, but the strikes didn't have a bigger effect as the pandemic did. But so the thing is that, yes, I can be forgiving on those parts. What I'm not forgiving is that, like, you guys still decided to make each season like the most 8 months to a year apart from the previous season. So it's like one season's 84, then 85, then you continue to go with 86, and then 87. I'm thinking if y'all wanted to just continue the 80s nostalgia, make up for the reason why these kids are older than they should be. Like, you could have like I'll forgive you for the 84, 85 part, all right? but like 86, 87, you could have done 88 to 89. And that's just what I'm saying. Like, Master of Puppets still would have been would have been, relevant, I guess you can say, even though if you know the history in 1986 when Master of Puppets came out, that was also the death of Cliff Burton, the bassist of Metallica. But yeah, the only good news that came out was obviously Prince. And that's something that Stranger Things does, is they have like more people interested in older 80s music. So I was never familiar with Running Up That Hill, or at least I've never heard the song Running Up That Hill until I saw season 4. And I already knew about Master of Puppets because I'm a big Metallica fan. And then when Prince came into the mix, I was like, oh dude, I love Prince. Michael Jackson, Metallica again. What I was scared of is like, what if like people, when they see Prince again, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, Prince did this, that. Because in case y'all didn't know or didn't remember, and I don't want to talk about it again, but I will. When Master of Puppets was played on Stranger Things, and they got a 300% streaming for Metallica, somebody named Serena Trueblood decided to make a cancel video and talking about stuff Metallica did back in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, about like, because she went after James Hetfield a lot. Like, James Hetfield's a racist. He played a guitar that has an iron cross on it. They did a Nazi salute. What else did they do? Jason Newsted did a Nazi march. James hung with Kerry King from Slayer, and at the time, Kerry King, or in the photo, Kerry King had a Confederate flag. And yeah, or they were making fun of mental health and people's suicide and stuff like that. And, people like me and all the other folks were like, yeah, you're full of it, because if you actually did your research, you would know James and Metallica isn't any of that, because obviously James is one, we know he's the only white boy in the group because, Kirk Hammett, their guitarist, is half Filipino. Rob Trujillo, their bassist, is Mexican and Native American, and their drummer Lars Ulrich. And I just found this out. Lars Ulrich did the drums in Sinners, the soundtrack, and that's really, really cool. To my point, Lars Ulrich is Danish. The only other white boys they had in the group were their past bassists, which were Jason and Cliff. And you gotta remember, most of the stuff that she's accusing them of happened in the 80s and 90s. There was no social media back then. All right, hardly anybody watched the news, which, by the way, guys, stop watching the freaking news, guys, because I'm seeing all this bullshit on the, I'm trying not to cuss so much, but oh my gosh, on social media, it's like every time I'm on social media, somebody says, oh, Trump did this, or the law enforcement did this and that, and somebody said, oh my gosh, shut up, okay, just shut it. Shut it down, all right? Go back to a time when social media, you can just be like, oh, I'm having a good time with my family. Go back to that just stop watching the news and stop sharing the news. I don't give a fuck. I don't fucking care. Please stop, okay? Y'all made me cuss on my podcast. Now I'm probably gonna have to edit that out, but still. To my point, yeah, there wasn't too much happening back then, especially with like the Kerry King, where, for those that don't know, Kerry King was, it was the guitarist of Slayer, who, in Slayer's, bassist, also their lead singer Tomas Arias, is from Chile, and their original drummer is from Cuba. So Kerry King's not a racist, and they would have said something to him about that flag. And the Confederate flag wasn't entirely a sign of racism. Back in the South, people would call it as a sign of rebellion. It just has an unfortunate history that we don't like to get involved with. But yeah, everything they claim, it's like, this isn't true. You also got to look at the context. They're making fun of Nazism, which I don't know why they're using the term Yahtzee because certain platforms cannot handle the real word, but still. They're making fun of all this Third Reich stuff. They're not part of it. And James Hetfield, for some reason, being canceled because he didn't post about Black Lives Matter. That's because James Hetfield doesn't even have social media. So yeah, no to whatsoever. Just like assumption. But overall, I was still happy that at least Metallica made it on the show. To this season, so I can actually like chill out for a bit after that little bit of rage. This season, I have a lot of like not so great emotions about this. And again, mostly because they decided to release their show 3 years apart. And at that time, you just forget that the show even existed. Again, I know maybe the strike had something to do with it, but y'all still could have planned during literally during the season 4, y'all could have started planning and figure everything out, and then start filming in 2022. And if the strikes really did cause it, then you still could have waited and still somehow have it released in 2024. At least it's still kind of fresh in our mind. Or you get what I mean? And then things would be better. But you could just tell they just were like, we need to get this done as much as we can. That doesn't mean like some of the storyline is bad. Like, take away the whole military side of things, because that just bore me. Some of the actions is pretty cool, especially coming when we find out that Will eventually gets powers. I actually do like that. I don't think people did like that part. I enjoyed the part. I thought it was pretty cool. But Will, the character itself has always been, and I'm gonna talk about the coming out story, but with Will in general, after season 1, you could tell the writers didn't know what to do with this character. And then eventually we find out throughout the time that Will is gay, and a lot of people were screaming woke during the coming out episode, and I went, have you guys not seen the show? Like, literally since season 3, Will has been in the closet. It's never really mentioned, obviously, in season 1 because he's been captured the entire season, and season 2 because well, if you've seen season 2, you know all the problems. To my point being, ever since season 3, everybody's kind of figured like, yeah, Will's gay. This was the 80s, yo. I mean, and just for the record, like, I'm not an ally either. I know I have relatives that are gay. I'm just like not on board with it politically. That doesn't mean like I'm not gonna disrespect you in any way. I'm gonna love and respect you. If the respect comes the same way, if you respect me as a person, then I will respect you as a person. Which it's been getting harder and harder nowadays. But to my point, everyone knew, okay? And at first I was like, why are people, is this one of the other reasons, or is this the reason people just didn't like the show? It's not even the fact about like it coming out, because again, we all saw this coming. It's just like the way it was centered, it was just more of a, oh, okay. But in reality, especially back in the 80s, like how it went down, that it wouldn't have not gotten down until probably years later, because I think people became a lot more receptive in the 90s, or at least started to get receptive in the 90s. At least that's what I think. I hear some people go like, well, I've been out and proud since the 90s and I don't care. So it just depends. But at least with this one, Will's a little bit more redeemable, especially when he gets his powers and how he uses his powers. The Holly storyline, it just bugged me sometimes. I was like, why did you make her as now a character of a show? I mean, she's always been the character of the show, but you get what I mean. Like, why now focus on her? And like, well, hold on. I did enjoy Vecna and the way Jamie Campbell Howard put him, or Jamie Campbell Bowers put him. And I met the guy. He's really nice. I asked him, what would be his Vecna free song? And he said, Party in the USA. He gets that answer. He says that answer every time. Because he said, like, he just randomly said it because he was just being stupid. And he was like, and ever since that, he's just been saying Party in the USA. And Miley Cyrus has yet to acknowledge it. But to my point, I liked him as a character. I didn't know that he was supposed to be a reference to Freddy Krueger until I think a couple of months ago. Now everybody wants him to come to actually play the character, because we know Robert Englund is getting old and probably doesn't have a lot of time on this world. So anybody out there that wants to make a new Freddy Krueger movie, I'm available. I want to start making movies, and maybe starting off with the Freddy Krueger movie might actually be really cool. And B, we should get Jamie Campbell Bowers. I want to keep saying Howard. Jamie Campbell Bowers to play Freddy Krueger. All while we can try to figure out a way to get Robert Englund back. Wow, I can't believe I just pitched an idea. Studio executives and who is it? Wes Craven's family, I guess you can say. If you're hearing this, let's make it happen. Now, aside from that little pitch meeting, I was scared they were just gonna make him now a redeemable character because of how he was played. Was in the last moments of the show, where like Will was like saying, "You were just a kid," and he was like, Vecna or Henry was like, "Get out of my head." It's like, you could be free from all this. No, I don't want to. So as soon as like Vecna said no, and he again goes back to being evil again, I was like, oh, okay. No more of that, like the villain becomes now the anti-hero and sacrifices himself and for the greater good. All right. The only good example was Darth Vader. Okay. Darth Vader's the only one that's acceptable. Nobody else is. Okay. And Zuko. Oh, yeah. Zuko. Because Zuko was already a complicated character, like inner complicated, but still. My point being, yeah, there was that. The whole Godzilla fight was a bit off. The Nancy and Jonathan breaking up. I mean, most people didn't receive that as a breaking up until the Duffer Brothers announced it. And my other problem was was that final season. Was that final season really was that like I'm trying to think. I don't know. It just felt weird. I mean, yeah. I don't think I got too much. If I was to rank this show or this final season. I know what I was gonna go back to. I hate it every time they have to like break it into parts. Catch Volume 1 on, what was it, the day before Thanksgiving, catch Volume 2 on Christmas Day, and then wait 4 days for the last episode. The only good thing I liked about that last episode was literally like who was it, Joyce Byers, who had pretty much did nothing the entire final season, but like, watch over her kids. I mean, she's a mom, obviously, but all she did was like decapitate Vecna and say, "You fucked with the wrong family." Which is true. I mean, if he had not captured Will, none of this would have happened. Yeah. I'm actually going to probably go to a little convention after this gets released. I'm going to see the actress who played Barb and the actor who played, who was it? The teacher. I forgot his name right now, but I'm going to try to see those folks. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I probably might not have. Every time I say I'm probably going to see these people, I actually don't, but hopefully this time I will. But I mean, if I was to rank these seasons, I would say like season... It's weird. Maybe season 5 might be in last place, and then there's a 3-way tie for second place, because I see a lot more. I see both the good and the bad in seasons 2, 3, and 4. Like it's mostly because of the storylines and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like some storylines are okay. When it comes to the Russian storyline, that just bores me. Especially like season 2 when it came to what was it? 11 finding 8, I forgot her name. And then, of course, that character does come back in the final season, predictable, and she dies, predictable. And the ending of 11, also, to me, predictable. Also was never, I know some people were, I was never a fan of that douchebag Derek on the final season. I just couldn't stand that kid. But, yeah, I have a lot of bad feelings towards the final season. So final season's in 5th place. 3-way tie in 2nd place for seasons 2, 3, and 4. Season 1 is the only good season because, like, they established something. I would have enjoyed it a lot more if that was, like, a one and done, miniseries. I met David Harbour. I never mentioned that. I met David Harbour. He's such a cool guy. He's very particular on like where people stand when he's taking photos. I think he wants people on his right side. I never asked why, because I mean it was never a big deal to me as long as I get to be right next to him. Hopefully I could get also Celebrity Evangelist to come here and we could talk about convention stuff. Derek Novak, if you're listening to this one, sorry about all the cussing. That's just my inner demons trying to come out, but I really want to have a conversation with you, man. I'm probably gonna have to reach out and find you, but yeah. So season 1 is in 1st place, but yeah. I may rewatch them. I don't know. It's like a chore, but we'll see. So we'll get back because I have a different message I want to do after this. All right. Before I get to my message, I want to talk a little bit more about Stranger Things real quick. I was watching this thing with Dev Me, and again, no shade. I really love those guys. It was just how they came off, and it's not their fault. It's because, like I said, watching Stranger Things is a chore. And they were having to watch. At least Chelsea was trying to rewatch the entire season in a week, and I could never do that. So bravo to her. It's just because she got fatigued. But they were talking about Hopper and the way he was in season 3, just being like that dad figure. And I mean, I'm coming from someone who lost his dad. You're also talking about. This is coming from someone who I understand Hopper a lot more. So what I mean is I'm not a dad particularly. Like I don't have like kids of my own. But when I said earlier, like one of my kids, she doesn't like pickles. So I became what is known as a surrogate father. A surrogate father basically meaning you're the father figure people needed and they never got. And I became that to 2 girls. They're in their 20s now. At least one is and one's about to be. But when you understand their stories and stuff like that, like they haven't given me their full stories of their dads. Because sometimes it doesn't sound like their dad are bad people or whatever. Like it sounds like they've had some good relationships and other stuff they keep to themselves. I don't want to say something and it's like completely false, but I hear one thing one day and then I hear a different thing the other day. And when I came along in the picture, it's like they told me like I'm more the dad they wanted, and that's just a hard thing to say considering I got my own problems, and it's like I've always doubted whether I could be a dad. But if that's the legacy I ever leave behind in the future, then that's my legacy, and I couldn't imagine, being like a dad, but being that kind of a father figure to people, to two, almost three girls, I'll take it. So yeah, I'm a girl dad, pretty much is what I meant to say, but everybody needs to be that father figure to somebody. They need it. And, if you ever doubt yourself as being a dad, but it's becoming that type of person, don't doubt yourself anymore. Because you'll eventually realize you actually can, be that figure they needed. And, any person would love to have you as a father. That's all I had to say about that. But to my real message that I've been trying to, I want to say, this is even going to take long. It's going to take the most, maybe 3 or 4 minutes unedited, but 2 minutes edited, 2 or 3 minutes edited. It just depends on how much I talk. But we know that Netflix has been having these deals with Warner Brothers and stuff like that. I don't remember 100% of what had happened. All I know is basically like they want to buy off Warner Brothers, or it's really happening. And then Paramount wants to get involved, and then Trump even wants to get involved too. But to my point being is that, look, I'm okay with the streaming services of Netflix and Peacock and, Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Hulu. I am getting tired of them saying like, there's a new streaming service out. I'm like, dude, can we just stick with the 5? Because it's just too much. And not only that, so like certain platforms, I understand why they would have streaming platforms, because like like Netflix and even Amazon and Hulu will, they like to check in on the indie films and stuff like that. But indie films also need theatrical runs too. To my point being, I remember when I was, I think, 4 or 5 years old, maybe 4 years old, and I saw the Rugrats movie. I think I was 4, maybe 3 years old. And if I was 3 years old during that time, man, I must have one hell of a memory. But I do remember kind of seeing the Rugrats movie in theaters. I don't remember the full experience because of how young I was. Oh, wow, I was 2 years old. Dang. Okay, yeah, that would make a little bit more sense because I was almost 3 when it came out. But I should not be remembering it. But I think maybe because my older sister wanted to watch it because she saw the Rugrats. Though the movie I have the most experience with the theater, like a real good first time experience, was I think it was Spider-Man, because Spider-Man came out in 2000. Yeah, it came out in 2000. So no, Spider-Man 2, what came out? All right, I think it might have been The Grinch. That I might have a real first time experience of the theater. But even Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man as well. Spider-Man, it was a great experience. The Lord of the Rings, I always loved. To my point being, I love the theater. The theater cannot go anywhere. Filmmakers need the theater. Even Sean Baker has mentioned, like, indie filmmakers need those theaters. We don't always need a streaming platform. And if we want to catch up on, other great movies like from the past, like How to Train Your Dragon that I saw on Peacock, or other older classics like The Lord of the Rings that's on HBO and HBO Max, really. I mean, like, I'm okay with the shows of the streaming service as well. Like Cobra Kai, I might talk about Cobra Kai this season just to get more content. And of course, The Boys, and we talked about Welcome to Derry and Stranger Things. The Penguin, which was such a great show on HBO Max. I'm pretty sure it did come out on the station itself. And that's the thing, HBO Max is helpful for people who don't even have the station HBO, because HBO is still a station. And I'm okay with the comedy specials. Not everyone could get a Comedy Central special or HBO special or a Showtime special. I'm okay with the Hulu special or the Netflix special, But trying to replace that for a theatrical experience, that's something you can never do. All right, I love going to theater, and I still will love going to theater. I swear, I'm pretty much, whenever I get married, the first thing I'm going to do before I get married is watch a movie theater by myself for the last time before I ever tie the knot with somebody. We don't need this deal, okay? Netflix needs to back up and let the theaters be, let Warner Brothers be, okay? They've actually been doing pretty good, okay? Let the theaters be. That's my message. I love the theater. Tons of us love the theater. That's my message. That's all I got. You guys have a great night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. Signing off.